Well, howdy, everybody. Nice to have you all here with us on a Tuesday evening, middle of the night here. So if I sound like I'm talking a little quieter, it's because people are sleeping in the house, and well, I want to survive the night. Yeah, but I am here with Matt. As you guys have noticed, we've kind of mixed things up the last couple of weeks and have not been doing mornings. And Matt and I are just talking off air, like, it's kind of nice because we don't have to edit anything. Matt does the editing, which is not the end of the world, but it's kind of nice when it's just done. And especially we like having people in the comment section. It just kind of makes for a more fun show. So we appreciate anyone who's
Mm.
here so far. All the zero of you guys. Oh, there's one that maybe that's mom. Hi, mom. But no, today I think we have a pretty cool topic. I found this on Twitter. What you see on the
Mm.
screen are not. It's not my list. This is a list from some random guy, and I just saw it being shared, and yeah, it kind of struck my fancy. And well, I mean, that's what we do right now.
It's funny, Kev, because after you and I talked about let's come up with some top 10 American moments in history, I thought of the song "We Did Not Start the Fire" by Billy Joel. Are you familiar with the song at all? It's a very
Yes.
popular song. So
We
you said that
didn't
last night.
start the fire.
I know you're
Yeah.
probably trying not to laugh too loud because your family's sleeping, but oh man, so I'm driving to work this morning and I'm singing the lyrics out loud. Harry Truman, Doris Day, and I'm like, none of this is really hitting the point. Did you know they made a new version of that song? There is an updated list
Really?
that talks about COVID and Pokemon and all of these 20th
Pokemon.
century. Yes, yes,
Oh
yes.
dear.
I don't see any. I don't see any baseball on here. No, I don't. Or Jackie Robinson.
Well,
Baseball, hot dogs, apple pie, and Chevrolet are the that's old school Americana
that's
right
true.
there.
Well, that's a whole. So we need to
Baseball.
do a whole different list of top 10
They're so
Americana. Yeah.
There's so all right. So there's so many. I was thinking about this a lot today, and as I was trying to categorize things throughout my workday, I'm like, there's so many different ways to view an event as a top American event. You can view it in a positive light and a negative light. I thought of actually something pretty celebratory. I think one of the top moments in American history is just being a very prideful, um, unifying moment would have been the Miracle on Ice, the hockey match.
True. That's
It,
true.
I but then I thought, like, is that the same thing as talking about 9/11, when there was a very different sort of feel and a very different sort of occurrence that overcame our country? Two very, very opposite things, but popular moments in America. So I think one, Kev, that looking at the list here, I mean, the first one that comes to my mind is 9/11. I think that since most of our audience here was probably old enough to at least remember, or have been a bit older to live through it. Um, for those of us who can actually relate to it, I think out of all of these things here, that probably speaks the most to us. So anything you want to share maybe about 9/11 that I can share with you too, but anything that you would talk about with that
Well,
day,
I
week?
remember it. It was obviously in the early morning, and weirdly enough, I mean, we were homeschooled, so we were mostly out on the farm doing work. But it was one of those strange days where we were going somewhere, and I think my mom had on the radio. We were actually driving to Mother Cabrini shrines, St. Francis Xavier Cabrini shrine in just outside of Denver, Colorado, and
Mm,
we were meeting there with a group of other yeah, homeschooler Catholics. And yeah, I think she heard it on the radio. I think she was probably listening to, I don't know, Rush Limbaugh or whatever. And yeah, I mean, I remember, I think I must have been, what was I? That was 2001. So I was 12. And unfortunately, I have to admit this, all I remember about it was kind of joking about seeing a plane in the sky. I'm like, oh, I hope that's not going to crash too. It's like, oh boy,
no.
yeah, yeah. You can't say I was that very mature at the time, but that's kind of my memory of it. And I did, though, understand fairly quickly how much it was going to change life and
Yes,
America, even at 12 years old.
yes. There is a very pre 9/11 and post 9/11 world to that people who didn't really live or grow up in that post 9/11 world. I think they use it as a turning point of really a new modern way of living. Right, technology started to really take
Yeah.
shape post 9/11. Internet and the iPhone. These were just 2 or 3 years after this event, and you think back to pre 9/11, it was a much different way of life. even similar things like people really didn't use credit cards. If you went out to eat with your family, cash was used. I don't carry cash on me at all. I never use cash. But this event in particular to me, I remember um, first of all, buying all of the narratives that were fed to us. They hate our freedoms. They hate that we are just free. They hate that we can do what we want as Americans. They hate that we are able to make as much money as we'd like or have any dream we want to have. And that was really what we were told. But what I really and truly remember from that afternoon and the days that followed was the unification of of our neighbor. Maybe you remember as I do, if you went out into the public that week, forget that afternoon, that week, there was almost a sense of solemnness or quiet. I remember,
Yeah.
I believe the following day or two, going out with my parents to get dinner, and it was just quiet in the restaurant. It was just a very solemn feel. Everybody was just sober, or somber rather, sober, somber,
Yeah. Maybe
and
both.
maybe sober too, but or maybe not sober. But there was just a very unifying feel there. I remember seeing American flags everywhere. We were a very patriotic country at the time, and the American flags were on everybody's lawns. I remember one car in particular on my street at the time that they had American flags in their windows on their car. So when every time they would drive by in the morning, wherever they were headed, I would see the flags waving um, at their car windows, and just this level of people just being, I guess you could say, friendly or kinder to one another. I remember events like they were saying a movie theater, for example, had free movies all day for the rest of the week.
Wow.
People would buy you went to McDonald's or Dunkin' Donuts or a quick Subway or whatever. The person in front of you paid. There was so much um, unifying a unifying feel, I think, at that time. So, is it a positive moment? Uh, Very different from the Miracle on Ice, like, but
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a
as
tragedy,
the
but
years of
I see
yeah,
what you're saying though. Yeah, good did
as the
come from it.
years
Yeah.
as the years have gone by and as evidence has come out, my theories and my thoughts on 9/11 have changed drastically. But that is not the episode that we're doing today. But certainly, um, I think before. I mean, we could probably talk about this one topic alone for a long time, but certainly, I think one of the more you'll never forget where you were that moment and that day. In fact, I can still picture. I was coming home from school. I could still envision in my head as if I just did it this morning, walking up my driveway. I could just see like the scope of my yard, and I don't know why. It's just ingrained in my head. I can picture opening the door. I can picture seeing my mother sitting on the couch with the TV on. It was the first time that afternoon that I actually saw the towers because they didn't let us see it in school. They didn't let us turn any television. I was in public school. They didn't let us turn any of this on. So coming home and looking at it, and it was actually my launch really into politics. I became very interested, and I didn't know what's Al Qaeda, what's the Middle East, what is
Hmm.
Osama, who is Osama bin Laden, who is Mullah Omar, who are all these people, and what do they do? And you listen to a lot of the narratives. I was hooked to the new. In fact, my really quick before we probably move on, my parents actually had to stop me from watching the news because I was so entrenched in just watching the coverage. Bin Laden released a message. Remember, he used to videotape these messages from one of the
Yeah.
caves. I remember I had on the television. In fact, this is very nerdy of me, but when President Bush came on, not that night, but a few weeks later, when he sat in the Oval Office and said that we were beginning airstrikes in Afghanistan, Operation Tora Bora, I believe it was called. I actually scripted out in cursive a lot of the quotes from his speech. Just I don't know. I had no reason why. I was just fascinated by the entire thing. I don't know. And so my parents were like, enough. Like you're not old enough to be like so consumed by
Right.
terrorist attacks. But I was, and yeah.
I,
So
I
certainly
I
that
I
was
went back and I would go and watch documentaries of it almost every year. There's something just so, as you said, so fascinating. It's such a big event in our lives that I think it makes sense. I mean, how much it changed, and you look at just the Patriot Act, et cetera, and how it really changed how we again, good and bad.
the
I think
Patriot Act,
it's no, that's not good at all. That's just bad. But it's
the
interesting.
Bush Doctrine. Yeah.
When we talk about, okay, how are we ever going to find faith again and find Christ and become a Catholic nation, etc. And we typically say, well, it's probably going to require a great tragedy, you know, a war or a famine or death.
Mm.
And I think 9/11 is a perfect example of exactly as you said, that, you know, you needed this horrible event to bring people together and people to see, hey, you know, life is important. It's something big, and we are in this together, and we need, I don't know, just to do better. And I think that's something that unfortunately you only tend to see after some tragic event.
I see Father Gecko wrote here, very, very true. There was just a different, the world was very different. There's no way for anybody who hasn't lived it to explain it. There was just a very, very, very
Yeah.
different world. People, the way we operate and the lives we live today are just not the same. The world that existed then no longer exists.
Well,
It is very,
it's a
very
perfect segue to the next one. So let's stay in our
Yeah, before we
our
just
lifetime.
we could yeah. I just have you ever heard Kevin? Do you know a lot of Israelis? They really enjoy dancing. Have you ever heard of
I
that?
have heard that.
But all right, next topic.
Next topic. Yeah, speaking of dancing or Israelis, here's a question for you, Matt. Well, what
I love dancing.
was the point
Yeah.
with COVID that you scratched your head and you're like,
Oh man.
okay, because I know mine.
When
Like I have there was a clear moment where it's like, this is wrong. Something is really, really off here.
more and more and more and more as
Yeah,
when
for sure.
at first I was like, oh well, no, this is not good. I remember getting in the car, like I had to go pick up some things at the grocery store, and like I remember looking around the street, and I'm like, I'm driving in the world of COVID, like there's could be COVID around me
Right.
in the car. I would say there's so many moments. It didn't take me too long to think that this whole thing was dumb. In fact, I got in trouble for it twice. Which I can talk a little bit about as well. But I would probably, there's so many points. I would probably say the 6 feet apart thing as people are moving.
Yeah.
Like, I'm here, you are there, we're 6 feet apart, and then as soon as you take a step, I can go stand where you were standing, and it's safe now. I there was just too much. But there were two times, and I know you could chime in here, Kat, but what I found is that the people, and this was my little public experiment, the people who were so wear your mask 6 feet apart, were too afraid to approach somebody who was breaking protocol. I was actually looking for a new phone at the time. I needed an upgrade for my phone. I went into AT&T. They gave me a mask and said, you're not allowed into the store without a mask on. And I threw it. They had conveniently, divine providence, thank you, Lord. They had a garbage can right where I was standing, right at my feet, literally. And I just dropped the mask in there, and I said, "No, I don't wear these." And I told the clerk there, I said, I'm exempt. And she never asked me what that exemption was. She said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize." And the only exemption that I had was I was exempt from the stupidity of all of this. I had no exemption. So
Well,
I was it, and I
there
used
were
that
some
line, and it
general
worked one other
exemptions given
time.
by bishops, so you could take that religious
Yes,
exemption.
yes,
Okay, that was not mask, though. I guess that was the vaccine. But come on.
But the point is that nobody, and it happened to me one more time. I was in Target where I told them that I was exempt, and they let me. Nobody ever pressed me for what my exemption was, and I wondered what would happen if I told them that I was exempt from the stupidity of it all. But I don't know. What about for you? What was your,
my moment was, it was about probably a month in, because they had the first month, as you said, it was kind of like, okay,
You're unsure.
yeah,
Right, you're unsure.
everyone's like, okay, maybe this is a big deal, and then we had lived in a tiny village, and I mean like maybe 100 people, and I remember they came out somehow with a rule. I forget exactly. Maybe it was on the radio. I don't remember, but they said that you are not allowed to go outside. I'm not kidding. Like they're saying you are not allowed to be outside of doors without a proper reason. And I'm like, what?
Did you notice though? Because what you just said there made me think of something. The more obvious it became that this was all a little strange, the more extreme their demands became of us. For example, you said you couldn't go outside. One of the governors, of which I forget which state, Newsom, I think, was in a league of his own, but there was one governor who said you cannot sing happy birthday to your friends because there's too many P's and S's in those words that enunciate too much saliva from your mouth. They got more and more extreme. There was what you can't sing, you can't have Christmas in your home in a 12 by 12 square space with 4.5 people in it.
But you can riot for Black Lives Matter. So,
Yes, remember, no
there were
kings,
some
no
good
kings,
reasons.
no
Some
kings.
good reasons. Oh man,
The
what a
people
crazy
out there
time.
for these no kings protests did anything Fauci and all these clowns said. They don't want a king. They don't want a leader over them. But Dr. Fauci says I can't go outside. I think another tipping point for me was the restaurant. If I had I started living normally. I not too long after all this, I quit the whole thing. I said I'm not doing this. I'm not sitting down in the booth normally, but if I stand up and I'm not doing any of this. I'm not following the stupid arrows. I got in trouble for that too. I wasn't following the arrows. How dumb do you have to be? I'm not a scientist. I'm not anything trained. You got to use your head. Got to give us an intellect. Got to give us reason. Got to live. You have to think. And I don't know why more talk about sheep. I mean, wow. I'm not saying rebellion is a good thing. The church condemns the spirit of rebellion, but this was idiotic.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Man.
I am with you. Yeah, we could definitely do a whole show on the idiocy of COVID. But let's get back to the list. I'm curious, anyone who's watching in the comment section, let us know what major U.S. events are not on this list. Again, this is not my list. This is just a list I found on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it.
Hillary Clinton losing.
Yeah, honestly, Trump's election might be. I mean, that's kind of hard to say because we're kind of in it. It's hard to say, 100 years from now, is it going to be like, oh yeah, that was a changing moment?
Right.
Maybe. Right. There's Trump being elected as big as Vietnam, for instance. I mean, probably not. You had Vietnam, you had tens of thousands of people dying, and a whole shift in culture.
Hey, whatever our thoughts are here, Trump prevented a woman president twice. I mean, cheers.
It's funny. I when I was thinking about the show, I looked up because it's like, okay, events. Does that mean can you consider the birth control pill? It's not an event though. That's so that doesn't really work. That's just something that was invented because I think that's a big negative. Roe versus Wade. I think I would add to this list. But I was also looking at the 19th Amendment. I was like, the 19th Amendment. When was that? It was actually 1920. So. No, can't take that one in. That was more than 100 years ago. But I might have put that. But well, let's go this way. What ones on this list would you take out? Because I think it says Pearl Harbor and then World War II. It's like, well, isn't that kind of the same?
I wouldn't think a Hollywood movie would make the all-time great list of American events. I would erase number 8. Kennedy assassination. It is a great movie. Very good theatrics with that one. I don't know. I think there are some people who have commented before who do believe that the moon landing happened. All the power to your imagination. Okay, number 3.
Honestly, though, with the moon landing, I am on the fence. I think it didn't happen, but I am not completely convinced it didn't happen. There's a lot of really weird stuff that makes me very much doubt the moon landing. But there's also some stuff that makes me think, the fact that they can't seem to do it anymore.
You want to know?
That's kind of weird. There's a lot of stuff.
One thing, as we're talking about this, I know I'm totally changing the question you just asked, but as we're talking about theatrics of the moon, have you ever noticed the phone calls from the jets on 9/11, the voicemails that were left are crystal clear? Like it was like you're recording into a Shure microphone, SHURE microphone in a studio. Why is every single one? I don't sound like that.
And why are they recorded?
In 2025.
And why are they recorded?
Yeah, right.
And it's also
all of these calls are crystal clear. And remember when President Bush was in the classroom, the words on the wall there were jet plane steel hit. Very convenient. Well, yes, you have not seen that?
I don't think I saw that one.
Those were the words of the day for the students. Jet. You can. It's on the video when he's you know that famous video clip. Jet plane steel hit. They were practicing those words. Yes.
That is pretty weird.
Programming. We used to take off the list. I mean, Jackie Robinson was a huge event, of course.
I think that one I had to think about a lot because it's like, is that a baseball player? But I do think actually that, the segregation, it's hard to put into one event when it was, kind of became normal that blacks and whites lived together throughout the U.S. And I think that That's not a bad one. I think that was a huge moment, and I think it's not a bad. And Jackie Robinson's not an event, obviously, but I mean, the idea that he could be
I,
allowed to play in the big leagues, I think that's a. I think I would keep it on my list. I mean, I don't love it. I think.
well, I think
So here's a question though. Do you think is Jackie Robinson or MLK assassination a bigger deal?
which one is the bigger deal?
Yeah, which one? If you had to boot one off the list,
Oh,
which one
it's
would it be?
it's so hard because they're two totally. It's like comparing a. Oh
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
I would honestly, I would probably get rid of the MLK assassination.
I think I would too. I mean, he was obviously an
Yeah,
extremely influential figure, but did his death actually like JFK's assassination changed America? Did MLK's assassination
right.
change America?
No, I think
I don't
people could
think
very
so.
easily they make it a bigger deal than I think it really was. Not to downplay it, but if they didn't make it into such a thing that they constantly are, it's MLK Day, it's this, it's that. I think it would be glossed over a bit more. I still actually with Jackie Robinson. I remember the first time as a big baseball fan, so maybe a bit more for you or I than other listeners. But they have the audio, the radio broadcast of the game of where he made his debut. And I remember the first time that I heard, I wasn't obviously alive, but listening to playbacks of in Jackie, the radio broadcaster says, and Jackie Robinson steps to the plate for the first time. I almost got like chills, like it was a huge
Hmm,
moment
yeah.
in the league. All eyes were on him, and the amount of harassment and hate that he endured. Just by going to play a ball. There's a great story on that, and I forget a lot of the details and facts at this point because it has been so long since I've watched those documentaries. But he faced and went through
For
a
sure.
lot. Yeah,
I think
JF.
he's a heroic figure. Yeah, Robinson did it. Yeah.
The comments here, I'm agreeing. JFK is the only president who didn't kiss the Wailing Wall. That is absolutely true. In fact, um, he threatened to remove United States aid to Israel if they didn't abandon their nuclear program. So
Right before he got
I
killed.
could,
Yeah.
yeah. Who would have
We always
thought?
these things always come back to Israel somehow. And I want to also point out Father Geckel's comment. This is very true. I thought about this too, but I don't know Vatican II. Can you put that as an American event? I mean, I think because if
Well,
so,
I
then of
think
course Vatican II is
you want to know what's odd though.
unquestionably on this
There
list.
was
But I don't know if it's American. That's the question.
something about that. There's no doubt a lot of growth in America in the Catholic Church in the pre-Vatican era. You saw, I mean, there's so many dioceses that were just booming with vocations, and you've probably seen some images of glorious days past. But I think we also can't forget that the Church in America in the 1900s was absolutely drenched in modernism, and people don't think that because they look at the old photographs and like, oh wow, the nuns are dressed in habits and the school kids are dressed nicely and everyone in the church is veiled. There was so much modernism. Things like religious liberty were rampant in the church in America. All of these things had crept in and had crept in for a long time. So I agree with Father's point that certainly the church in America was in a much more beautiful and it was almost beaming in a lot of ways visibly, but there was a lot of darkness that had already crept in probably for almost 100 years at that point. If you were to interview Catholics in the 1940s and 1950s, a lot of the mindset then was in a lot of ways similar to what we hear today. People don't think it. Of course, the Holy See and the vigor of Christ profess the Catholic faith, but oh man, was there a lot of trouble in a lot of places.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, and it's interesting though. Sorry, my brain's all over the place. I'm listening to you and looking at the list, but
Yeah, I know
I
I'm
got it.
terrible at
Putting the
that
list
trick
was a
too.
bad idea. It's distracting me. But it's so interesting 'cause you have several of these things. So many of these things were around the same time. We talked about that before, but how amazing is that the Vatican II, Kennedy assassination, Vietnam, moon landing. These are
MLK.
all these MLK. These are all in like at least a decade at the same. It's the same era. And again, it's I give the boomers a hard time, but boy, they lived through a lot. I mean, how crazy is what they lived through?
Mm,
And those who
yeah.
persevered, man, oh man, what a absolutely bonkers time. And it's interesting
Mm,
too because and you see. pretty quickly after this, like in the 1970s, maybe partly because of Vietnam and the sexual revolution and whatnot, you started to see a
Yeah.
lot of these serial killers, and it's really bizarre. I
Mm.
saw a documentary one time about that, how it totally spiked in the 1970s and 80s, and it's just kind of a bizarre thing in America. And I don't know exactly what the
Yeah.
reason is for that. I mean, maybe it was the drugs and stuff that was coming out, because that was another thing, right? That you just had a really turn for immorality, and I think part of that, again, the country. So I would add to this list. I would say the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Again, I know it's not. That's
Mm-hmm.
more a Japanese event, but I think, as I've said many times, I think that's kind of when the U.S. truly lost their way, and then they doubled down on that when they killed their own president. They killed Kennedy for whatever reason. If you want to say it's Israel or the CIA or Lyndon Johnson, they wanted to get into
Well,
Vietnam, etc. They had something to do with it. I'm really convinced of that.
and a point, there's so many points I feel like I could make. We're crossing a lot of topics, but I think another point here too is Kennedy obviously was a very immoral man, and he didn't want
Sure.
the church, his faith, to ever be imposed on his ability to govern, which of course is a grave error. But I think he overall, I think if you were to take, you cannot ever remove your faith from your public life, and that. But if you
No.
were to look at Kennedy, I think he was quite a strong candidate in a lot of ways, and I think he actually talk about. I think he was a very America first
Yeah, he loved
president.
America.
If you can
Yep,
actually look at
I
the way,
believe that. Yeah.
and he had a good Americana aesthetic about him. He had a very nice New England sort of look. One of the reasons why we can't separate the assassination of John Kennedy from his brother,
Sure.
they're
Robert.
linked. And for
Yeah.
Bobby Kennedy, and the reason being, in my opinion, and from other things that I've read, is because Bobby Kennedy, of course, wanted to release all of the information and get to all of the information that led up to and conducted his brother's assassination, which he actually said the only way that I can actually get my hands on these documents is to be in the White. I have to be president. I have to
Yeah.
be in the White House, and that actually propelled him to. He wanted to wait until a 70. I think it was 73. Maybe he wanted to wait for the next election to run, but being pressed to actually gain access to all of these quote unquote sacred files, he had to be in Washington, and that propelled his run. Earlier, he would have he vowed to enact justice on the situation, and because of that, he too had to get taken out. And in fact, it's interesting. You can Google this. The accused killer of Bobby Kennedy, Sirhan Sirhan. There's a lot of questions surrounding that as well. And Bobby Kennedy Jr., our current health secretary, is convinced that Sirhan Sirhan did not do it. Um, so
Well,
much information. But another man, I was thinking of
well,
85 things.
The Kennedys are another one that we talk about, another really interesting deep dive, because I mean their father really was like, he was mafia, and they were, their entire lead up
Yes.
to John F. Kennedy becoming president was extremely gangster. But it seems,
course.
and I think this is fairly factual, that once Kennedy got in, he had just this, I don't know, like a St. Paul moment in a way, that I think he decided, he turned on these groups, and the secret societies, and on the gangsters and on the mafia. And that's probably another reason why, well, he got shot. It's just so interesting that there were so many, and it also could have been the commies. It could have been Russia. So there are a lot of people who really hated Kennedy. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was any of them. I mean, Israel also makes sense. I'm not convinced of that, but could be. Well, what a sad. I mean, and I think since him, presidents didn't do squat. They were too afraid to actually stand up for anything. I mean, look at Trump right now. I think Trump right now. I mean, let's not. We don't need to get into Trump. We can do that another day. But I mean, it's just interesting that anytime you see someone make all these promises, and then it's like, okay, I think he loves America. He's trying to do his best, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, nope, we're going to war, and oh, nope, Epstein files don't exist. It's like,
I think it's
maybe someone just showed him, just send him a video of JFK getting his head blown up. That's all you got to do.
I think it's interesting too that Netanyahu just left the White House, and all of a sudden the Epstein files don't exist. I think there's a very small chance too. And again, I agree. Also, I agree with a lot of the comments here. Nice. They're very good. They're very nice to read. I think there is a chance, and I'm not saying that this is my actual opinion. I'm just talking out loud as some ideas. I think there's a chance, though, that somebody would blackmail Trump to say something like, I don't know, like, how much do you love your granddaughter? It would be a shame something happened to
Yeah.
her, right? If you release those files. I'm not even saying I believe that, but there's a possibility of something like that exists. I think absolutely. Um, but yeah, all these comments here about JFK, yeah, I believe that is correct. He wanted to dissolve the CIA. There was a lot of things that he was looking to actually do
Yeah.
and change about the way government was run.
And he wanted them out of Vietnam. He did not
He
want a
did,
full war with Vietnam.
he did,
And
he did.
what
He
was it,
was
2 weeks
successful.
later, almost? I know it was very, very quickly after he was killed that they officially went to war with Vietnam.
And I think I see some of the comments here cycling in as well. Of the three brothers, it was often said that Bobby Kennedy was the most devout Catholic. In fact, in Bobby Kennedy's home, I'm talking about the man who died in 68, 9, 8, not the current secretary, but they had a crucifix in every home. They had holy water fonts throughout their house. They had rosaries scattered throughout their desks. I believe in a lot of ways they held progressive opinions, but even if you try to find what were John Kennedy's position on abortion anywhere online, you'll find almost nothing. There's almost nothing there because just the consensus of the time was that this is something just wrong. Everybody just, it was a natural law that people just believed. You know, it's not like today where what's his or her position on abortion. It just wasn't really a thing that was
Yeah.
talked about because it was just the general consensus was yeah, like the comment here, he wasn't really that anti-abortion. They were very short and they were progressive in a lot of ways, um, but 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 still, um,
Yeah, yeah, it is
uh,
interesting, but you wonder though again what would have happened because they were the royalty of America, and
yeah,
if
yeah.
John F. Kennedy hadn't been killed, maybe he gets another term, and then maybe his brother gets in after him, and I think you are looking at a very very different history. I
Oh
mean,
sure,
truly,
oh sure.
I mean, what happens? What happens if they don't go to Vietnam? What happens if you have an
Mm.
entire generation of kind of shell shocked men, and drugged up, and
And
it was a total disaster of an era, and
and
possibly,
I
possibly with the Kennedys, it could have been better. Who knows? Obviously, it's all hypothetical.
and I think presidents lead to presidents. For example, Jimmy Carter was so bad that it led
Yeah,
to Reagan.
right.
And you wonder if the course of history was different, who would have followed, say, Bobby Kennedy? If you can't follow the list of events or the reigning presidents or the
No,
past reigning
would
presidents
all be different.
based on their wins because it would all have been different, right?
Yeah,
Reagan did a lot of
yeah,
disastrous things.
yeah.
Um, and if Jimmy Carter wasn't, it would. I mean, you could the same. I think Bush, Obama, Trump. They all sort of lead into one another gone by. I think right. I think we would not have gone into Vietnam with if JFK was alive. He was a great negotiator with the Cuban Missile Crisis, and I think there's something to say. Final point on this. There is something to say about our leaders being young and somewhat good looking and vibrant and articulate. All of these people who have been in charge of our government looking like they're nursing home residents is a really bad optic. There was something about Kennedy, John Kennedy in particular, that was just so like he had a very good aesthetic about him. He was an attractive guy. He was smart. He was charismatic. Our leaders should look like that and be that way.
Well, Kamala Harris was very charismatic. Very charismatic. missed out on that one. That's
She's
a bummer.
actually my wallpaper on my phone, Kev. Please don't make fun. It's a nice close up of her girl bossing.
Oh,
you
nice,
know,
nice.
just a great time.
Just to keep her in your memory.
Yeah. Just in case just in case.
Matt, we need to get you a wife. We need to get you a real woman on your phone screen. Oh man. Well, okay. What have we not covered here? Let's see. I think again. What else would
I mean,
I
Pearl Harbor,
add?
World War II, Japan. I saw somebody mention in the comments too. Japan was quite a Catholic country. There's a book that a priest recommended, "Song for Nagasaki," and I think if a lot of you know Colleen on Twitter, she was like, "Yeah, I read the book. You should read it. It's great. Very quick read. Really, really good story. If anybody's interested in the quick, it's pretty brief, but it's about a man who grew up in Japan before the war. He was an atheist. He was, I believe, a chemistry professor. I read it a couple of years ago, maybe 2 years ago at this point, and he actually, through study and through science and through applying actual empirical data and numbers and evidence and all these things. He converted to the Catholic faith, and he ended up losing his family in the atomic bombing of I believe Nagasaki, which is why the book is called Song for Nagasaki. Very, very good read. So if anyone wants to go on Amazon, I make no profits off that. Go on Amazon and look up the book, and order it for yourself for $9 if you want some summer reading. Very, very good book.
Yeah, and I mean, especially the fact that those were the two most Catholic cities, and it's an interesting one of the
Yes.
photos you can see. I don't remember which one, maybe Nagasaki, where the like lone standing building is the cathedral.
Yes, it was a
or maybe it
statue
was
of
a
Our
church.
Lady.
I think it was a cathedral. Yeah,
I think it was.
yeah,
I think it was Fulton Sheen too, the progressive liberal that he was, who said that those bombings led to birth control and contraception because it was just an absolute disregard for human life.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
the amount of innocent people truly just going about their day were wiped off the face of the earth because of war. Um, a song for Nagasaki. A song for Nagasaki. I could. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, that's it. Really, 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 really good. I'm not one to read a book like that. I prefer uh, maybe
Comic books.
a bit more political. Yeah, comic books, seat spot one sort of thing. But that one I read through fairly quickly. It was a very, very good read. It was good.
It's always nice to see
I mean,
history in
even
a Catholic lens, right?
yes, yeah. And he actually he turned to his faith throughout all of this, and it's just so it's written very well. It progresses very well, and it was a fun book for me to read. But yeah, this list I think we kind of covered it. One thing though that I thought of that wasn't on the list when I was thinking through the list of American moments was actually the first mass ever said, which was in Florida, right? I believe I had it. It's funny,
Yeah,
I had
St.
it here.
Augustine.
I had it here, yeah, and now I had all the the stats
Yeah,
on that, and
this is a good. Actually, this is a
X'd
good
all of
one.
it out.
This is a good one from Commodus. It's weird. I agreed with Commodus in the show so far. I don't know if I like that. He says
Morocco.
movies,
Yes,
music, print, entertainment, and the press played such a big part in the whole population becoming enchanted and
Oh
propagandized.
yeah,
Medium controlled by yeah, good question again. Who controls that medium again? The people who like dancing, right? Yeah, no,
love it.
that's true. I mean, again, we
I
the screen doesn't show,
Good.
but this list is supposed to be American events in the last 100 years. Because if you're going back before 100 years, of course, you got to say the Civil War, Revolutionary War, etc. But this is 100 years of American
1580. Yeah,
events.
yeah.
But media
I
is
think
that's a great point with Hollywood. Yeah.
I think things that are not on the list that actually came to my mind as I was thinking about it today. Again, the Miracle on Ice, I think, was a huge event for our country. Very, very proud moment for people who like dancing on that. I don't know if he's getting the reference. Just Google dancing Israeli
Google who
conspiracy
danced on
theory.
9/11. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You'll come across it. Very strange things there. But World War II. It's such a topic that people have studied and taken into account into many of the way of life we have today, and debated it. And did the good guys win? There's a lot of that, but it just really makes me reflect too that Our Lady of Fatima told the seers of Fatima that war is a result of sin. And one of the things that Our Lady said too was that one of the things that discussed her son most was immodesty in women. And we're talking about the early 1900s
Yeah.
when women dressed extremely modest. I mean, look at old footage of people walking New York City, Los Angeles, San Francisco in the 1920s and 30s. They looked like almost like nuns crossing the road, and immodesty offended them there. I apologize. I did not know that by the name. But yeah, I mean, those things are.
Sorry, Matt. I'm just speaking for you.
Put my feel free to put my phone number
Yep,
in the
I'll give you Matt's phone number.
comment box. Yeah. I have a old flip phone. But what was I
Sorry,
saying?
I threw you off.
No, that's right. It probably wasn't all that important. I was just running through thoughts in my.
World War II. Well, and I think
my
the way I want to say with World War II is that I think that the good guys did not win, but the bad guys did lose. the Nazis were bad. Japan was
Okay.
really bad. I think, but I do not think the Allies were good. So no, the good guys did not win. But it's not. Again, that idea that
there were no
the
good guys.
exactly the idea that one of them had to be good. It's like no, definitely not.
Which is why I think it's just so horrible to me that there are a lot of these far right, alt right people who glorify Hitler. Hitler was anti-Catholic. He virtually abandoned God. So to make him some sort of hero, Catholics have no problem posting pictures of St. Ignatius of Loyola casting out the heretic Martin Luther. Hitler hated God. And so you can make. I mean, did he have good traits? He absolutely did. In fact, I think he said there was a writing on his that said people who procure or take part in an abortion should face the death penalty. All right, strong point for a actual leader to say, but man, oh man.
And again, like we got to go. We don't want to get into this topic, but just some of these things they say. Yeah, well, the book burnings. It was because they were burning gay pornography. It's like, yeah, okay, that might be true, and that's a good thing. Guys, they murdered hundreds of priests.
So does Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-un. They burned Kim Jong-un does book burning, and he includes Bibles in that book burning.
It's just so the arguments are so juvenile, it just drives me crazy. But we don't have to get into that.
People are looking for a strong, effective, masculine leader, and they put it on Hitler, which is not it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why.
Yeah, Nick Fuentes. That's actually an interesting topic. We'll have to talk about him sometime.
He's so smart and he's so good, but he swings and misses.
Yeah,
he makes a lot of good points. He deserves to be heard. Absolutely, 100% deserves to be heard.
I just can't stand that people look at him as like this Catholic role model, and he's up here saying the F word and B word. He's calling Candace
a very foul mouth.
Yeah, it's like, dude, you don't. I'm not. How could I ever watch or care for someone who says that about any woman? I mean, it's ridiculous. That's gross. But yeah, that's my thoughts generally on him. Well, I think Matt and I've got to go,
need to wrap this up. Yes, correct.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. Everyone who liked the show,
that long.
I know it was a quick 40 minutes. Let us know what you guys would like us to talk about next week. We might do another live show.
I think these are cool.
See, I could not do Tuesday. Maybe I could do Monday. Want to see. But I also have a live show tomorrow with Father Carlos Cepeda talking about Our Lady of Mount Carmel. Our Lady of Mount Carmel, and also some Catholic events coming up. That will be tomorrow. On Wednesday at, let me think, that'd be 2 p.m. Eastern time. And then on Thursday, we're doing a live show with my parents at, now I have to think about it, I think 6 p.m. Eastern time. We'll put it up as a premiere, both of those shows. So it'll be live shows. Kevin's not going to get any sleep this week, but hopefully you will. hopefully you guys all enjoy it. So 2 live shows coming up. Father Cepeda Wednesday, and my parents talking about child upbringing on Thursday. So we'll see you guys for that. Matt, hopefully we'll see you next Monday if it's recorded or if it's live.
Good.
We plan to be here. So we hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you for all of you being in the comment section, and we will see you all next week.